Hello and welcome back to our Curse's Westmarches development. Okay, so when last time we'd left off, we had tried out some of the random generation for the exploration, and I felt that it was really fiddly, though after testing some more with some different variables, so let me go ahead and open that up. After testing with these new variables here, I was a lot more satisfied with what I was rolling. I was starting to get, as I went out across the terrain, I was starting to get more terrain types, I was starting to get more terrain elements. It was starting to vary up. So that could work for an online game, but if you want to run a game in person, these terrain elements and that sort of thing, it's going to be a little bit too fiddly to keep track of. So after last time, I went ahead and split the exploration between the DM copy and the player copy. The DM copy is what I'm going to print out and use for myself, and it's going to have the random map generation on it, and it's going to have all this stuff still on it because it's kind of my master document that I'm working from. It's going to have all this stuff about the planned encounters and all of the DM advice. It's going to have all that still on it, and the emphasis on sandbox exploration part, that's all going to be still there. However, I also have a player document. Now, the player document is what is going to go in the player's guide for the campaign, as well as going to be put up on the Discord. So if it's DM advice, I cut it out, is generally what I did. So if you notice, like the whole part where it's dedicated to sandboxing, the players are going to be aware that it's a sandbox game from the very beginning. They don't need the DM advice on that. And then further down here, where we had like an explanation for fixed encounters, I've changed that to encounter sites and put it so that it explains what landmarks are to the PCs. As well, in the terrain types, I got rid of everything except for a description of what the terrain type is, and I kept in any mechanics changes if it's there, such as the survival check DCs to avoid getting lost, increasing by 1 in a marsh hex. So I went ahead and kept that. So this is going to go up on the Discord. Now, to talk about the Discord for a bit, many different DMs and many different groups use many different ways to organize their Westmarches campaigns. Some use subreddits, some use Discord, some use email, some create websites, all that sort of thing. I'm going to keep mine on Discord because that is what my group is most familiar with. Now that we kind of have the hex crawling part worked on, there are two other large parts connected to this, and that would be monster encounters and hazards. I still haven't gone through all the hazards to go through all that, but I have started to go through monsters for the random encounter tables. So I went ahead and made a folder here in my development folder for the encounters, and I separated it up by tables and by the hex type. And then over here I have the master tables. So what the master tables are is, this is, say, a monster that can appear in any cold climate, a monster that can appear in any temperate climate, monsters that can appear in any hot climate. This is the document that I build off of for each of the other terrains, because there's going to be more entries in the bestiaries with any hot, any cold, or any warm is how the bestiary uses, any warm, any cold, or just any. There's going to be way more of those than there are going to be biome-specific monsters. So it's easier to build off of this here than it would be to, you know, say make a plains table and then copy that, take all the plains monsters out, and put all the specific mountains stuff in there. So that's what this is for. Now, with that, I also have, close that, and that close them all. Okay, and with that, I have went ahead and created a simple plains table. So let's pull up the master here. So I simply copied the master document, and then went through and added the specific, the terrain-specific monsters. This is all from Bestiary 1. I decided to make this video using just Bestiary 1, even though I intend on putting all 6 bestiaries in the random encounter tables to give me more choice. Because what I'm going to show you now is going to be how to create your random encounter tables. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to copy this boy, and I'm going to paste it in here, and I'm going to rename it Plains Level 1. So this is going to be the master document, and this is going to be what I would say is appropriate for like the first band, so to speak, of however many hexes you want to be in this band. So I'm going to go to Plains Level 1. It's just going to open up to the whole thing. I'm going to go ahead and open up my bestiary. So your best friend for putting together these tables are going to be the monsters by terrain in the appendix 10 in the bestiary, and from there you can more easily create these tables. So that's how I created these master tables. And then in these tables, I put the information that I'm going to need to put together the random encounter tables for my hex crawl. So I went ahead and just put D percentile in here. I have no idea how many entries are going to end up on the ending table. So I just want that blank. We're going to go with the monster name, the monster's type, the CR, and what sourcebook it can be found on, and what page. This is really important stuff for your final tables, because if you're only using the bestiary, it's not really that big of a deal, but it's nice to, I rolled a clay golem, you can open right up to page 159. This is also going to be more important once you start hitting the other bestiaries, or NPC codex, or monster codex, and all that sort of thing. So this is all information that I want to sort by when I create these tables. So I want the wilderness to be dangerous to the players, like in the monsters and what they're going to be in there. So I'm going to go ahead and above this, I'm going to type in wilderness is dangerous. So what this is going to do is, basically, if a creature is below a CR of 1, gets kicked off. Exceptions are made for humanoids. So, and I probably need to spell right. My fingers sometimes move faster than others. Exceptions are made for humanoids on here. Another thing we can do is you can create groups of creatures that are less than that to get up to CR and that sort of thing. But that's kind of further along than what I'm doing here. Another thing that I want to do is I want naturally occurring creatures. that's something I want as well. So I went ahead and made these tables. There are 3 tables here, one for each climate type. So this is all plains, so this should be plains warm. And then we have plains temperate. And plains cold. So plains warm, temperate, and cold. That is going to cover, that's going to cover your seasons. That's going to cover what if the adventurers really start going north or south and, hit the equator, or they start to hit like the Arctic or Antarctic, depending on where everything sits. So you might as well cover all your bases while you do this. Alright, so I'm going to start with plains cold here. So using all of this, and another thing is that what's the CR range of encounter? So this is meant for the characters going out for the first time. So this is going to be a range of average party level plus 3. So we can have up to CR3 or CR4 creatures on here. So anything above CR4 is going to get kicked out. And what's the easiest way we can start doing this? So I'm going to go ahead and pick up all of these, and I'm going to go sort. And how I'm going to sort is I'm going to sort from column 3, which is our CR, and we're going to go in ascending order. So it's going to start at CR1 here, or it should. I mean, it didn't really, it put the 10s and stuff in here as well. I had it sort right before. Let's try this again. Let's go ahead and sort. Oh. Here it is. Says it by alphanumeric. We want it by numeric. That's the mistake I made. Alright. So now, you see that everything's in order by its CR. So, this way, alright, APL plus 3, so everything above CR4 is going to get kicked out. So we can go ahead and hit right here and start deleting rows until we're only left with our CR4 creatures, or CR1 to 4 creatures, that is. Okay, so those are automatically kicked out. And because we copied this, we still have a master document that still has all those in there. So we can just delete to our heart's content. Alright, the next thing is, let's see, we have dogs, fire beetles, skeletons, and zombies. Alright, the next thing is we want naturally occurring creatures. I don't count, and this is personal taste, I don't count constructs, undead, outsiders, outsiders as naturally occurring creatures. You can do things like make exceptions for native outsiders. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting rid of undead, and the constructs. And I'm just deleting rows. Also, outsiders are going to go. Monstrous humanoids can stay. Alright, and so can aberrations. So this is what we're left. This is what we're left with our plains cold for CR 1 through 4. Now, I might pull the monstrous humanoids out but I'm just not quite sure on that one yet. So there you go. And then you can also spice up this, you can spice this up also with encounters that you make as well. So this is just, you know, roll on the table and then look in the bestiary. But you can also do something like, we can throw some more low-level, like, say, trappers or hunters, that sort of thing, maybe bandits. And those can also give you ideas of, you know, what you can put out there on your map. So, like, if there's bandits, then maybe there's a bandit camp that they're coming from, that sort of thing. It's the same with this Minotaur here. Maybe, you know, maybe there's a clan of Minotaurs that lives in the area. Maybe they're the indigenous tribe, that sort of thing. So, generally, that's how I would go through. And then what I would do on this D percentile is I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 13. Maybe I would want to use a D20 for this, and then I would weight more for. I would weight the rolls more on the vermin and animals than the, you know, doppelganger, gargoyle, and minotaur. You can also weight it more on like a bell curve in here, because there's a lot more CR4s here than there are CR1s. And if we get rid of the dog and the fire beetle, that narrows it down a little bit more even. So after you get this, you probably want to look at how you want your bell curve to be, because you want the higher stuff on the bell curve to come up less than the lower stuff. And that goes into like weighting it. So, and just remember, your die is going to roll on a bell. The extremities, even though technically everything has the same percentage chance of coming up on the die, when you find, if you roll over time, you're going to find that there's a bell curve. That's why there's an average roll on every die, and you can weight this to go on the bell curve. It's really important to learn how to weight things on a bell curve, especially if you're making your own mixed CR encounter tables. Well, anyway, that's how I plan to do all my encounter tables, and I plan to do it for each and every terrain type. And a big decision that I'm going to have to make is how many difficulty bands do I want in my Westmarches game, and then how thick are those difficulty bands going to be. So, anyways, that's more stuff to think up of later. Thank you for watching. This is Arcurus, signing off.